Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Monday, June 13th edition. Obviously, we are calling ourselves to order. Please note that Dr. Milliman. And with that, we'll move on to my favorite, the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to our approval of the minutes, which we're going to continue until the next approval of the minutes. So we will skip that agenda item at this moment, which brings us to our old business. I do not know anything under our old business, so we will move directly on to new business. And first up, we have a facade grant request. Derek Warren, I believe this is you, sir.
Good evening. Tonight in front of you is a facade grant application for 116 North Lebanon Street. This property has been before you in the past for a staircase addition to the property, which gave the owner access to the second floor. So Stacy Dempster, the owner of the property, is back to seek some more funding to help finish off some of the facade components of the building. So on May 5th, 2022, Stacy Dempster at 116 North Lebanon Street received a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation. Second floor window replacement and new awnings for the storefront and the second floor. Ms. Dempster did submit the required estimates for the project, and I'll go over those with you. And for those who can't see the report, I will go over those numbers for the project. So the low bids for the painting was $9,000. High bid was $9,300. Awning low bid was $8,740. High bid was $8,937. $900. The high estimate was $31,137. Math here, because this being the second application that's been before you, and as we've talked about in the past, every time an application doesn't max out and they submit a new application, it builds upon the last application. So I'll go over that, how we got to that point here in a second, but let me show you some of the pretty pictures. There's not a whole lot to show in this application, but I can show you what the awnings look like. This was the artistic rendering that the company submitted. You can see the awning there on the first floor and the domed awning on the second floor. And that domed awning on the second floor will actually carry around to the alley side to go over the newly installed access to the second floor. So that beam will carry around to the alley, which it is visible from the right-of-way, so that'll be nice to see. The window, this may be some detail that you really don't care to know about, but I thought it was interesting. So this was a new window that was submitted for the district, and it's actually a Pella product, and it's a fiberglass product. So this is a newer window that has been accepted in the historic preservation world as a quality window. So typically you run into wood windows or fiberglass windows or aluminum clad wood windows, but this fiberglass product seems like a very, very sturdy product, something that will last the test of time. The color is actually baked into the finish, and there is some of the risk you run into with an aluminum clad wood window is something could dent the get out. You won't run into that with this product. Again, the second floor doesn't really matter, but I did think it was interesting, and I thought I would share it tonight, that this is what was approved. So those are the pretty renderings. I don't have any historic renderings that you haven't already seen, but so I'm not showing any of those tonight. So it is strictly numbers in this case. So back to the voodoo math. The RDC history of this property. In September of 21, September 13th of 21, the steel staircase was in front of you for a grant application. And the RDC award was $20,095 with the owner share of $5,500. So fast forward to today's application, and the combination of two applications, of the 21 application and the 22 application, for the total $55,985. So that puts the application as a whole in category 8, which is between $50,001 and $75,000. And in that category, the applicant, the ownership. So the owner's contribution of $5,500 under the September 21 grant was in category 5. The 2022 RDC application puts the owner's share at $26,000. So with the $5,500 already applied to the $26,000, you reach a point where the applicant is responsible for $20,500 to reach that category 8 match contribution. So with the total of $30,390 for this application, minus the $20,500 shortfall for this category, the recommendation from staff is to award for the $30,390 project grant eligibility of $9,890. So I see Corey staring at me like I'm speaking Chinese, so please feel free to ask any questions that you have.
I'm the bank. We averaged a couple of averages in there, and then we got to the square root of a number.
Exactly.
So a couple of points out there. So obviously we see in this graduated scale, it's doing exactly what it's intended to do, right? So as we go up in these levels, the owner's share and our share kind of start to equal out a little bit more. So that's great to see. Side note, this resolution is set to expire at the end of this year. Have some of these discussions to come with a plan to the entire commission of what this may look like 2023 and forward. So, yes, Dr. Taylor?
Question for clarification, a reminder, is our facade budget set on fiscal or calendar?
Calendar.
Calendar, thank you.
Expires at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
But the allocations are made also on a calendar or made on fiscal?
Yes, correct. The way the original resolution was written is it was for a 5-year length of time, $250,000 for each year.
Thank you for
Yep.
clarifying, appreciate it.
I believe we encumbered a little bit into 22, correct?
We did. So when there's leftover money, I have come before you in the past to ask to carry that money over since the larger chunk, the full chunk was set aside. That is the reason I come back in front of you, yes.
Perfect. Any other questions from the commission?
And I would like to go just a few words further in this. So as I've mentioned in a lot of applications, in this case, it rings true, just like some of the others. There is a tremendous investment being made into this property that you're not seeing the numbers on because simply they just do not qualify to be processed as part of this resolution. So in this case, the owner is reactivating the second floor, which is exactly what our vision was when we invested all of the money into the infrastructure. So in this case, the owner is remodeling the entire second floor to make it an apartment, which was the goal in this investment into our downtown. So this has happened in the past, but this is another shining example of an application that I feel should be supported because there is tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that do not qualify for any type of reimbursement that the applicant is making into this property.
Derek, didn't we used to get a report from the historical committee that approved approve this to move forward or something?
Yes, the
Staff-
certificate of appropriateness, which was included in the link that you received for the.
I probably didn't get it printed off, I guess.
Okay.
So,
Just for confirmation, I don't think you bring it to us if we haven't jumped those hurdles, correct? Generally, you don't come to the RDC if we don't already have those in place.
That is correct. That's one of the criteria set forth in the resolution as part of this grant process is in order to get to this point, they have to get past the HPC
Right.
goalkeepers
Right.
to approve the project. And-
Right.
And this has been done. Dick,
Right.
yes.
I figured that, usually that was attached with everything, and
Sure. It's in my link, technology sometimes doesn't work like it should, so I do apologize if you didn't get it,
I might have, I didn't print it off.
no worries.
All
I wouldn't be
right.
here tonight if it wasn't already in place, I can tell you
Okay,
that.
buddy. All right.
So with that being said, any other questions from the commission?
And the applicant is here tonight, if you have any questions for her as well.
So seeing no additional comments, I would consider a motion in regards to the staff recommendation of $9,890.
I move we accept the recommendation at $9,890
90.
For the facade grant.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, motion with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion does carry. Stacy, it's looking great. I love the stairway up the side. I'm
That looks
most
great.
looking forward to the awnings. I think if you look around the downtown, we could use some awning love in a couple of different locations. So,
Exactly.
very excited to see those.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you much, Derek, for your support on that. That moves us to our next piece, which is our LCSC Workforce Coordination Update, and Ms. Kristen Scott. We're going to get ourselves set up technology-wise
Oh, yeah.
here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you now.
Good evening. I'm excited to just drop in to provide a little bit of an update. You might recall I presented in March last time in the fall, so it's been quite a little bit. But as we close out the school year, just wanted to give you an update on where things currently were with the career engagement program that you guys have helped to make possible within our district. So to begin, I'm just going to start at a broad picture as an update and a snapshot of where we are with career technical education. Definitely a hot area within Indiana itself and education. As a school district, you can see the different pathway options that we are working to at the high school address for our students or to provide courses in for those students in a wide variety of areas to prepare them for after high school. You can see since 2015 all the way up to where we are 21-22 school year that we just closed out, our enrollment of students in our CTE classes has continued to climb and increase. Definitely with the addition of the graduation pathway requirements from the State Department of Education have helped it, of course. We have several opportunities that allow our seniors different opportunities, such as our building trades program, a house and more class where up to 15 students are interning in the areas of medical field throughout our community. In addition, we have the Health Science CNA program where students are able to become licensed certified nursing assistants. We've had 8 students enrolled this past year, or 18, I apologize, 18 students enrolled this past year and have several that are currently working in facilities within our community as certified nursing assistants prior to even graduating high school this past May, which is exciting. We have 7 students that completed their first year of precision machining out at the Vincennes University Gene Haas facility. 2 students that just completed their second year and had the ability to complete an internship opportunity, also second semester in their areas, and have just now graduated. And we're looking, next year we'll be bringing back 8 new students to that program and 2 students that will be returning for their second year, for a total of 10 from LCSC. We have 11 students this past year that had interest in education that completed a cadet teaching experience within one of our buildings. And 45 students that had an internship throughout based on their areas of interest, for a total of 130 seniors or juniors combination that were off-site completing capstone experiences, gaining those valuable employability skills, clocking in, clocking out, interacting with adults in a different environment than what they're used to. So then when we look directly at the internship program, a snapshot, I've been in the position now for 7 years, 6 days learning, and we've had approximately 106 different community partners. Some of those, of course, throughout the years have been duplicated or, of course, host multiple students as well. So you can see such a really great impact that we've been able to hone in on within our community. If you visit our website, and I will send the link to you guys tomorrow, you'll see that we have an interactive map that was added this year that you can actually zoom in and zoom out to see based on the different colors of icons of where our placement sites have been. So we've been as far as, Hamilton County to Hendricks County, but the majority of those are right here within our own community. So it's exciting to see those stars continue to grow and populate throughout. One exciting thing that we did this year in addition was, now that we've had students go through the program, we wanted to reach back out to the alumni that have now either earned their first position or are still pursuing their goals, career goals. And through that, one of the questions that we gained from that was, we asked, did you gain a better understanding of the concepts and skills needed in the future career that you're pursuing now? And as you can see, a very large majority of those students definitely felt like this experience helped them and impacted them and prepared them. And then the industry sector. What industry sector are you currently in or currently pursuing, so that we had more of an idea of where our students are going in what areas. So you can see a large majority of them are going on to business, administration, marketing, and finance, which can be a very area, all the way down to education and training. So it kind of varies throughout. There was approximately 192 that were emailed and sent the survey this past year, and we had 56 kids actually participate and respond to the survey, for about 29% total. So felt pretty good about that. And then overall, just encourage you guys to keep up to date with us and what we're doing as we continue to place our students for the upcoming school year and get to work with our partners. There's several great opportunities here, snapshots, or see pictures of our kids in action as well. And so just encourage you to follow along and watch that and join the journey. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions from the commission? So I know we spoke last year briefly about the Gene Haas partnership, or the Vincennes partnership, excuse me. And, as we can see from those numbers, it looks like we're getting a lot of seniors involved in those programs. What can either us or some of our community partners do to try and get those juniors into that first year class so we can carry those seniors into year 2?
So one thing that we're going through right now is the state of
Concerning that we're not seeing those level 2s.
No.
Because in my mind, I
and
see.
With all the other half a day, they're gone from 12 to 3 every
Right.
day, 5 days a week. So that's 4 classes that they're not getting at the high school. So it's difficult to carve that out with all the different requirements.
Right. Very good info. Thank you. I was curious. Sorry. Any other questions from the public?
I'll
Commission?
just work for, as he is going through engineering school. This is a phenomenal program, and the more that we can place right here, bring them back home, the better off we are, I think. So, yeah, it's a great program.
I can add, from a statewide perspective, there are a lot of corporations that don't have this avenue for internship. So on pathways, certifications, they struggle. And so to have that established, and it's been established for a number of years and supported by the community, really allows our students a critical step up in moving down a pathway. And you saw the whole list of pathways. And that list will constantly change. As high wage and high demand changes, so will CTE. But we're very fortunate that this guy has taken that program and moved it to a level of opportunity that other school corporations don't have. So very proud of what's being done there. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for an update.
I'm going to leave these with you guys as well, just for some information.
Perfect. I'm sure we'll hear from you again probably this fall.
Yep, thank you very much.
Very cool. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That moves us on to our next agenda. We are going to speak a little bit about the Hickory Junction Resolution 2022-06. So Rob, is this your?
Yes, thank you, President Commission. This is just another step in the process with the Fieldhouse project and the public infrastructure project involving card athletic facilities. Essentially what Resolution 2022-06, it's a resolution that's pledging the tax increment financing to these respected facilities. So I'll go ahead and read through the resolution. We've heard a lot of this before, and so I'll try to hit the highlights, but certainly if you have any questions, we can go through that. So it pledges certain tax increment revenues and covenants to pledge a special benefits tax, again, for the Fieldhouse redevelopment of the city and the Lebanon redevelopment district. Again, previously adopted and amended certain resolutions that established the Lebanon Consolidated Economic Development Area and adopted an economic development plan for that area. All of those are designated as allocation areas, which include, among other things, the Fieldhouse allocation area. And it created an allocation fund for the Fieldhouse allocation area. To foster economic development in the area, the city, the Redevelopment Commission, the Lebanon Building Corporation, and Card Associates Athletic Facilities, the developer, desired to provide, again, for the acquisition, the construction, the installation, and equipping of approximately $190,000 to support football, soccer, rugby, lacrosse, structure improvements consisting of and related to a loan agreement between the city and the building corporation, and lease payment agreement with the building corporation. That's the Series A lease. The Series B bonds will be payable from the notes made by the commission as lessee under which will enable the building corporation to make the note payments to pay debt service under the Series. The commission will then pay the lease rentals due under the Series A lease from certain local income tax revenues distributed to the city under Indiana Code and pledged by the council of the city to the commission for Series B lease from a special benefit tax levied on all taxable property in the district pursuant to Indiana Code. However, this commission reasonably expects to pay such lease rentals from any other revenues legally available to the commission, including but not limited to tax increment revenues generated by the Fieldhouse allocation area. Over the term of the Series A lease, Series B reserve, the commission has been advised by the municipal advisors that provisions need to be made to replenish the Series B reserve on the earliest possible date following a draw on the Series B reserve. Whereas to provide for the payment of the lease rentals due under the Series A lease and the Series B lease, and covenants to levy a special benefit tax to pay the lease rentals due under the Series B lease when necessary to replenish the Series B reserve to the extent that the TIF revenues and any other revenues of the commission are unavailable to pay the lease rentals. Now therefore, this commission finds that the pledge of the TIF revenues and other revenues legally available to the commission, the estimated available revenues together with the funds on deposits in the commission's allocation accounts created under Indiana Code not expected to be available on the dates which the lease rentals are due under the Series B lease, the commission shall annually levy the special benefit tax in an amount sufficient to pay the lease rentals due under the Series B lease. The commission hereby irrevocably pledges the TIF revenues to the payment of the lease rentals due under the Series A lease for a term of years not to exceed the Series A bonds. Secondly, the payment of the lease rental due under the Series B lease on parity basis with the Series A lease for a term of years not to exceed the term of the Series B bonds. Thirdly, to replenish the Series B reserve on the earliest possible date following a draw on the Series B reserve. However, such pledge to replenish the Series B reserve shall be junior and subordinate to the pledge of the TIF revenues to the payment of lease rentals under the Series A lease and the Series B lease. There are no other prior liens, encumbrances, or other restrictions on the Commission's ability to pledge the TIF revenues to the payment of lease rentals due under the Series A lease or the Series B lease. The Commission reserves the right to enter into leases or other obligations of the Commission payable from TIF revenues in whole or in part, entitled to pledge the TIF revenues on parity with the Series A lease, the Series B lease, in accordance with the requirements set forth below. And that's defined as parity obligations. All rental payments due under the Series A lease and Series B lease and payments on any parity obligations payable from TIF revenues shall be current or a pledge of local income tax authorized to pay such parity obligation. This Commission shall have received a certificate prepared by an independent qualified accountant, adjusted, which amount shall at least equal 125% of the lease rental and debt service requirements with respect to the Series A lease and the Series B lease. In estimating the TIF revenues to be received in any future year, the certifier shall base the calculation on assessed valuation actually assessed or estimated to be assessed in the date immediately preceding the issuance of the proposed parity obligations. C, payments on any parity obligations or junior obligations in the form of a lease shall be payable on February 1st and August 1st, and any parity obligations or junior obligations in the form of a bond shall be payable semi-annually in approximately equal installments on February 1st and August 1st. The Commission shall approve and confirm the findings in the estimates set forth in the above described certificate and any resolutions that would authorize the parity obligations. The President, the Vice President, and Secretary of this Commission, and each of them is hereby authorized and directed to take any such action and execute any agreements, documents, or other instruments to approve any and all matters and do any other things that they deem necessary, desirable to carry out the transactions contemplated by this resolution. And this resolution shall be in full force and effect after its adoption by this Commission.
Did everybody digest that?
I would just say I would go to the beginning. This is Baker Tilly, Bond Counsel, Ben Bontrager, and others have been before this body in establishing it. In essence, this is the pledge of the TIF revenues to support the obligations, as well as what is in the backup in here. Baker Tilly will be working with this body to go through all the detail that was said a few minutes ago in here.
Absolutely. Dr. Taylor, do you want to reread?
I was going to ask on paragraph 4, line 7, but I thought I'd let that.
Got it. Any other questions or comments from the Commission? All right, so with that, I would entertain a motion in regards to Resolution 2022-06.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 2022-06.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
With a second, all those in favor, motion with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion does carry. Resolution 2022-06 is adopted. Thank you very much, Commission. And that brings us to the next agenda item, which will be our friends with the Lebanon Utilities, giving us a little bit of an update on some TIF.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to give a quick update on some infrastructure, the situation in the business park for the wastewater side of the business park. For those of you who don't know me, I think I know everyone here, but the engineering firm Butler, Fairman, Seifert is here with me also, and our general manager, Ed Baskell, is here for any questions. We are getting very close to the limits of our wastewater capacity in the ever-growing business park. It is flourishing in a great way. The way it was designed and the way our infrastructure for wastewater was designed, our infrastructure was designed to grow with the business park to the comp plan at that time. And as we all know, right now, everything in town is just flourishing and moving along at a rapid pace. So what we wanted to do was give everyone an update of where I'll turn that part over to John, and we can kind of go through that, and then we can answer any questions you have. This is just for informational purposes, so as responds with everyone's ideas and plans for future growth for the business park itself, and we don't want to get too far ahead or too far behind, and we definitely don't want to be in a position where we have to say no to high-paying jobs or to new businesses coming in because we did not have this conversation early enough or in enough advance. So I'll turn this over to John, and if you have any questions at any time, please ask, and we'll also have some time at the end if there's any questions also.
Perfect.
So just a quick overview of the Lebanon Business Park. It's the only rail industrial park in central Indiana. It's a very cool thing that you guys have, obviously very attractive to a lot of businesses here lately. In looking at that, looking up more of the history, it is nearly at its footprint capacity when you look at how everything's done. Business park, it's around 1,400 that recently came out in the last couple of years. It shows the potential for the footprint of that business park. The wastewater collection system is park all kind of pumps to one gravity wastewater treatment plant. We've talked about looking at additional capacity being generated is by capacity regional lift station that would pump around some of our downstream limitations. To upgrade that to a larger size and extend force main around kind of our collection parts of town all the way to the wastewater treatment plant in order to generate additional capacity for additional businesses to come in, or industry. Right now, the current flow from the business park is around 1,200 EDUs, and an EDU is an equivalent dwelling unit. So to make things easy on calculations, easy to explain, what we do is we take an equivalent dwelling unit is equal to the flow from one single household, which is actually about 310 gallons per day. So currently, from the entire business park, you have about 1,200 EDUs would be able to handle around 3,000 to 4,000 EDUs of flow. So you'd still need to account for that 1,200 would go through there. But in its role as wastewater, for a minute, it's a lot harder to serve Ken's Foods or anything that uses a lot of water is most typically going to also produce a lot of wastewater. We'd love to do this project tomorrow and be ready, but the total cost of the project is probably right now somewhere around $9 to $10 million. So that's our last kind of idea is the funding for this project has yet to be determined, but as Ryan said, it's kind of one of those things that we want to get in front of everybody and just let everybody kind of know the wastewater limitations that we have currently as far as expanding that business park. So that's about as high level, I think, as we can get on it. But if there's any specific questions or...
John, I got a question.
Back here?
Yeah, okay, start right there.
Yes.
Okay, be upsized, correct?
It goes across the interstate. So you're kind of limited by that 12-inch sewer that it dumps into right now.
Well, what about the Edwards Drive lift station?
So the Edwards Drive lift station is a newer lift station, and it really serves maybe 3 buildings. down on that south side of Edwards Drive, so it got put in when Ken's Foods was coming online. It also doesn't pump very far. It pumps to a 12-inch sewer that's on Edwards Drive. That sewer then flows up to Enterprise Lift Station. So Enterprise Lift Station is kind of your choke point for now, but even if you just upgraded it and outlet it at the same point, that makes a 12-inch sewer. You're saying you're just kind of limited right there with your crossing. And then as you keep going down the system, there's other kind of limitations where it won't accommodate 3,000 to 4,000 EDUs. If that's what everybody really wants, that's what we're looking for.
Go back to the other picture that showed the comprehensive plan. Okay, now,
If I had a pointer, I could pretty easily.
Have you-
So if you
can you do it
see
with
that
a-
the white building
okay?
at that intersection?
Yeah, I see the road, coming around there,
Yep,
okay?
and then if you go all the way to the south of the yellow area, southeast side would be Ken's Foods, so that lift station is just a little bit to the north of that on Edwards.
Okay, so if we was to upsize the Enterprise, how is that going to affect the area in red out to the west?
So the area of the red, the way we would size it, the area to the south would still probably need a pump back up into that system to get everything working correctly.
So before we go too awful granular, so let's talk about the current plant. So currently at the plant, what's the capacity at the plant itself? So
At your current plant, they just did water treatment plant expansion, so you have about 6,000 EDUs available right now. The problem is we can't get it there right now because of what you have. You have old sewers. That sewer system was designed probably 70, 80, 100 years ago. They did a great job, to get this length of time out of it, but it's just, there's limiting downstream issues where we're having to pump around now, undersized.
So we have 6,000 in capacity left. What are we pumping generally?
What are you pumping generally? So to put it back into, I guess, wastewater treatment plant talk, you have a 5 million gallon a day capacity.
Okay.
I think it's either your peak or average is 2.88, and average is 2.88 MGD
Okay.
against the 5. So
Right.
you're a little bit over half. Right?
Okay.
There is room to expand that wastewater treatment plant too. This was just the first step. I think that the utilities chose correctly in not upgrading the collection system and sending more waste than the wastewater treatment plant
Right.
can handle. So it's just the next domino that has to fall. You have to be able to treat it, then you have to be able to get it there.
So thinking on a different side of the coin, when you look at the current wastewater plant, if we were to duplicate that in a different area of the city, so create a second wastewater plant, what's the number on that?
Very hot, what it has. Putting it in a different place is very tough to get permitting wise. You have to have a sufficient waste stream. Where your plant is right now is a pretty good spot. Maybe another sufficient waste stream would be in a bad location. You don't necessarily want to outlet your wastewater treatment plant upstream of the city.
Right. Well, and I guess, so here's where this conversation comes from in my mind. So obviously, we just had a fairly large announcement north of the city, right?
Yep.
So I think everyone heard a thing or two about that. But we also have development plan down south of town as well, right? So the Waterford and that sort of thing. So as we look at the different capacities, and the reality is we have a barrier, an unnatural barrier in I-65. So in my and east side of I-65, and look at an option for the south and west side of I-65. And does that make sense?
So, yes, we actually have had, in our talks, we have talked about the potential for another plant, depending on where the development goes. But even with to expand that and even get it to a new plant, we would still have to have a lift station in place to get it wherever we're going to go. The I-65 situation so in the proposed pathway. We proposed possibly going under the bridge near the walking trail. So if there was a repair, 65 would not be impacted. but
Right.
We would still be able to go underneath it. So yeah, that is a consideration and it is not anything that you would relish as a repair underneath or near the interstate. With a large plant, with a new development in the north, we would still need to get it there, but we have also talked about in some of our meetings, if we do have a new plan, possibly taking the business park to the comp plan and get
Is not necessarily,
full build out if that's the direction we want to go. So then, like we said, we don't have to limit any businesses that come in. We don't have to limit any amount of jobs or potential growth. We could accommodate everything in that, and then it wouldn't be, 2 years later, we got to build another one and another one, and then try to domino that. Any development that wants to come in there
Right.
and fill out the business park.
awesome. Commission, other questions?
So the way the
comments?
comp plan is right now, we could not take on anything if we was to build out in the comp plan, the way it's set right now, we could not take it on the system. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Improvements would need to be made to
Yeah.
the current system.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best.
So to upgrade to this regional lift station on Enterprise, does that have a potential to overpower the existing infrastructure of sewer pipe? And
Well, that's
if
why.
you're talking a 100-year-old piping system and you're bringing in a new age, fifth generation pumping station.
Well, and that's why we were talking about pumping around the existing system all the way to the treatment plant.
So you wouldn't get any downstream issues with the older stuff. This would just be new infrastructure all the way to the plant.
An express lane.
And then you wouldn't stress out anything that's 80, 50, 40 years old that was not designed for the amount of flow that we want.
Therefore, no impact on residential.
Yes.
So is there any plans though to, let's just say throughout the city, to fix some of those 100-year-old lines that
I wouldn't say that there's nothing wrong with those lines. It's not. And most of them aren't 100 years. That was just that's when it started. But many of them are concrete. I mean, your larger sewers, what we're talking about is the trunk sewers. So these are, it's more of a capacity limitation. So when they put in, if 42-inch sewers would have been put in throughout the whole city, we wouldn't be talking about this. But we also could have never paid for it, and nobody would have, a couple hundred feet of 48-inch sewer. Then it starts necking down to 42, then you're at 36, and very quickly you're at 18. And 18-inch sewers are just not enough to accommodate the kind of flows we're talking about. So we need to get around those 18-inch sewers, get into the larger 42-inch sewers, that type of thing, not overwhelm. We certainly don't want to create any downstream problems. That's the goal, is to make sure that we're actively working at a couple of locations to get rid of issues,
Right.
Everest Park and things like that, so that the goal is with the other sewers. As Ryan alluded to, that would be great if we end up, if a different project ends up needing a wastewater treatment plant and we can take the whole business park there, that would actually free up capacity in those sewer options. Like I said, we just wanted to kind of bring this.
There were very specific numbers
Can I
included.
ask one question? You're going down the Big Four Trail with a force main. Is there any thought about extending a gravity all the way up so you only have to dig it up once? You get enough, I don't even know if it's physically possible, gravity so far so that then you're only lifting to the west side of 65 and then gravity from then with new infrastructure that is sized to be able to accommodate. Rather than, because I can just see, okay, you need an next one, then you have to do another force main pump around. Can you put gravity sewer, is it,
The 9 to 10, if you were scared of the $9 to $10 million number, you would not want to see the number that size gravity would take to get to where we need. It's a big, so the nice thing about force main, as we're talking about what you can do with a 42-inch sewer, with a pump station and a force main, you can do the same thing with like a 14-inch sewer. So, or with a 14-inch force main. I mean, the cost, it's kind of different realms when you get to do pressure. versus, again, I wish we had a huge 42-inch trunk sewer that went, my life would be so much easier. I could tell Ryan, yeah, just dump it into the big sewer and we'll move on, but it's just so cost prohibitive, and where it ends up being in town, the large sewers are close to downtown, it's invasive.
But I'll,
How much space do we have? How much room do we have to pump?
I don't want to be short-sighted.
We're not at capacity out there yet, correct?
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
So if we're pretty close, what do you think the estimate is on the size structure that could go out there that would say, hey, guys, we can't take it?
We just had a request for just an expansion for a current business for 500,000 gallons a day. And yesterday at the wastewater treatment plant, we traded 2.8 million, just to give you some perspective. And that user averages right now about 50,000 a day. So that's just the current footprint. So a couple of expansions without another building being built could get us completely full within a relatively short amount of time. I don't know what that number would be, but that could be the case. Everyone is expanding as much as they're able to at this point.
Would you project a 5-year usability, or we're going to expand? I mean, let's just be realistic.
So we have the comp plan with the size,
Right.
but if you have a 20,000 square foot warehouse compared to a 20,000 square foot manufacturing, that's the difficult, is the amount of flow, and also waste, if it's just basically offices, relocate somewhere else and work in facility and add to the flow without even adding to the footprint. So we like to see the Ken's Foods of the world are also offering higher paying jobs, and they're more skill oriented. So we like to see those too as a community member. I do. So there's a balance, but the projection is difficult because even with a large footprint or a small footprint, they could have 10 times the flow than a larger footprint just because of what's in the facility.
Which is almost tripling or quadrupling the pumping capacity, because we just don't, we want to be able to say yes.
To prepare for large loads.
They're coming in. But it's really hard to project because we don't know what's coming in, I guess. So even, as Ryan said, we got that request, as we put this PowerPoint together a week ago, things have already changed to where
It's a moving target.
that half an MGD is a big ask. I mean, we're going to have some conversations at TAC tomorrow about what it would take to do that.
Well, with that, to me, I could see with that expansion to the possible north, northwest, whatever, up 65, I could see our industrial park taking off, other small units coming out there as opposed to going up there, maybe, or others, want to come down to a better place or something. So I could see it probably taking off as well, as there's a place available to go, so.
So just to kind of reel this in just a little bit, because we have 2 engineers over here and 1 engineer over there, and not to make an engineer joke, but that could go on for a little while. I would assume some point down the road, the reason we're getting this update is there may be a request for some funds at some point.
We're trying to look at everything we can do to have a minimum impact on current ratepayers.
Correct.
So, there's options. We do have last year's prices in our future budget, but we all know what every cost of everything has gone up significantly. So there will be a point in time when we're going to need help or to figure out how that funding transpires. And we didn't want to just come here and say, hey, we need help. We want to let everybody know what's going on, clear up any concerns, or if there are concerns that we aren't thinking of on our end, we can address those before we ever even get a plan developed or before we ever do anything
Yeah.
to go one direction or the other. We just want to make sure that everyone, we're all on the same page as far as
Right.
the future goes.
More questions?
Yes.
Rough estimate, what's planning to finalization time? So you've got funding. What are we looking at? 2 years?
At
4?
least, probably 2 to 3 would be a safe assumption.
And calculations take in increased capacity in that 2-year period of instance.
So,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yep. So I think a good next step may be a kind of a joint meeting with myself, maybe the mayor, as well as utility side, just to kind of high level go through things, and then a working session with the RDC and utilities may make a lot of sense as well. So that would definitely be something that I think that we'd be interested in.
I think the more we can communicate as soon as possible.
Yep.
And avoid any surprises for everybody and then be able to, like I said, we just don't want to turn anybody away. We want
Right.
everybody to come here and live here and work here and do that.
Good deal. Good deal. So that wraps up our new business on my agenda, which takes us to a motion and a second. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion does carry. And we have a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn discussion, we talked about a special session, we were just reviewing. Do we have a date on that? I know Ben and Joe, I think, were working on that, just to kind of clarify. Okay.
So as a,
I have it on.
so the special session of the RDC on June 29th at 6:30 PM. So that is already in ink. And we do have that motion to adjourn on the table.
Second.
And a second.